Alright, you guys, welcome to part 2 of the Joy of Gay Sex series on Charlie's Edition. And if you have not checked out part 1, that was about daddy-son fantasies. Very interesting topic. Now, the next topic I'm going to talk about is compulsive sex, aka meanfo. And you know that there's a lot of people who's addicted to sex. So I'm going to go ahead and read what compulsive sex is to you guys. One gay man wishes he had more sex. Another complains that he has too much sex. What's ironic about this disagreement is that both men may be having exactly the same kind of sex with the same frequency. Perhaps that's to be expected in a Judeo-Christian society with its ambivalent, at best, attitudes towards sexuality. Propagation. Okay, yes, pleasure, no. It's hard to find anyone brought up in America who hasn't been adversely affected by it. And it's the reason why places like Brazil, even though Catholic, and Thailand are so appealing to us, men in these foreign countries impress us as being better in touch with the sensationalness of their bodies and more relaxed about sex and natural behavior. The controversy over the American concept of compulsive sex began in Minnesota in the 1980s with an invention of sexual addiction as a diagnosable and treatable abnormality. It is not, however, approved as a diagnosis by the American Psychiatric Association. These diagnoses was first applied to straight people. It was claimed that to these people, sex had the same uncontrollable addictive qualities as the heroin to a heroin addict. Shortly thereafter, a few gay therapists claimed that gay men suffered from the same problem. But to distinguish gay from straight men, they changed the diagnosis to sexual compulsion. The main characteristic of sexual compulsives, they claim, is their discomfort and guilty feelings about the nature and frequency of their sexual behavior. These men feel guilty about jerking off too much, cheating on their lover, having anonymous sex, and participating in kinky sex, particularly S&M, water sports, and scat. The treatment usually offered is participation in a 12-step group called Sexual Compulsives Anonymous. These groups use the customary AA model as their guide, and men are supported by the group in ending their compulsive sex and substituting normal sex. Many people and many gay mental health professionals abhor the concept of sexual compulsion for historical as well as clinical reasons. For many decades, homosexuality itself was diagnosed as a mental illness because it was said to be compulsive. Psychologists use the words homosexual and compulsive interchangeably until 1973 deletion of homosexuality as a mental illness by the American Psychiatric Association. Most gay mental health professionals reject the sexual compulsion diagnosis because it sounds too much like a return to the days when gays were taught to feel guilty because of their homosexual fantasies and behavior. The authors do not believe that being made to feel guilty about their sexual behavior advances the rights of gay people. We, like other critics, note that the complaints of gay men are a reflection of the strict behavior code of repulsive society that goes something like this. 1. You shouldn't jerk off too much, whatever that means. 2. You should be in a monogamous relationship only. 3. You should not have sex in tea rooms, the bushes, or dirty bookstores. 4. You should avoid kinky sex, especially if it is disgusting and not literal, or something like that. We do not agree with any of the above noted shoulds and should nots. They are highly intrusive and have little or nothing to do with good gay health, mental or physical. It's important that a gay man distinguish between his actual sexual experiences and his feelings about them. A man may feel guilty about jerking off and call it compulsive if he does so every day, even 2 or 3 times a day, while another man may jerk off equally often but consider it normal and healthy. Another man may feel guilty about tricking out on his lover and call that compulsive. The sex itself isn't necessarily compulsive. The label he's applying reflects the power of guilt in our impressive society. Interesting. The authors see the concept of a compulsive sex as yet another technique by which our society is trying to make gay men feel guilty about their sexual behavior. The mental health professionals who advocate the diagnosis of sexual compulsion seem to use to be cops in the service of heterosexual society that wishes to control our desire. That's the last thing gay people need. This is not to say that gay men have it all together either. Like our straight counterparts, we sometimes have sexual problems and dysfunctions. We sometimes don't know how to channel our desires. We often hesitate in our approach to fulfilling sexual fantasies and make some serious mistakes along the way, usually hurting ourselves rather than others. The authors believe that the main sex problem is guilt. And you guys know that I actually read about this topic, guilt, a couple of weeks ago, so be sure to go back on my videos and check that out. Just as psychologists try to make us feel guilty for being homosexual in the first place. Perhaps a gay man should not be tricking out when he is in what's supposed to be a committed relationship, but we believe that this man would be ill-advised to confess it to a group of people who reinforce feelings of guilt about sexual behavior. Our belief is that it is a problem's development of attachment and intimacy, not sex. Instead, he should be encouraged to discuss his obviously unfulfilled sexual or emotional needs with his lover, possibly in the presence of a skilled couples therapist. If unattached, the gay man should seek a therapist in whom he can develop feelings of trust. While we have long been encouraged about the healing properties of AA and NA, which seem to be effective for substance abusers, we remain skeptical about the efficiency of 12-step groups regarding sexual problems. There are probably gay men who feel that SCA groups have helped them. We do not wish to create further conflict with them because of the choice they've made. They should act in their own self-interest. We merely suggest that they look at the alternatives and make an informed choice. So, very interesting, of course, to hear why a lot of people may be addicted to sex, which is very interesting. So anyways, that was our next topic, so stay tuned right here on Charlie's Edition of the Joy of Gay Sex for our last and final topic.